I remember recently when someone else brought up something that I have been spending a lot of time thinking about, the reality show Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And when it was unprompted, someone else brought it up. I was like, oh, is this belonging? Is this what it's like to find my people? And obviously, it can get a lot deeper than that. Welcome to Spilling the Jasmine Tea, where we, Vianne and Amanda, spill the tea on topics we grew up only whispering about. And that's just like today's topic, belonging. In my high school, we actually studied Alice Pung's anthology, Growing Up Asian in Australia. And that was a great stepping stone to really talking about these topics, about what it means to belong. Even though there was that platform, somehow these issues can be still so hard to talk about. And things like embarrassment or shame get in the way of really engaging with these topics of belonging, loneliness, and being yourself. We're about to dive into the very earliest episode that we recorded on Spilling the Jasmine Tea, because we may or may not have sent a few episodes to the bin, to the graveyard. So please go easy on us when you give it a listen. The tea does get juicier the further you get in the episode, I promise. So once again, we invite you to join us to our listening ritual. Pour yourself a cup of tea, maybe jasmine, and sip along as we spill the jasmine tea. Amanda, you just came back from Vietnam. How was it?
Yes, I did. I was there for my grandpa's 97th birthday.
97.
97th,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, it's getting old. It was really nice. It was a big event. My grandpa has 12 kids. And so it was all of the kids, and then all the kids of the kids of the kids.
So many generations.
So many generations.
Wow.
So there was probably 70 people there. And I remember on the night of the party, one of my cousins had just had a baby. The baby was 8 months old. And that baby was getting passed around. Like every auntie, every person wanted to hold the baby, to play with the baby. And I just thought to myself, wow, that baby's so loved. There's so much family around to love this baby. It made me think about like growing up here, and obviously we don't have that amount of family here. It was my mum and her brothers, and then there was family on my dad's side. Those are the two main families, and then there's some family friends that are a little bit more distant, but also the culture here is so different. Like in Vietnam, everyone lives super close, you drop in constantly, you see so many people in your day, whether they drop into your house or you visit their workplace, compared to here where it's a lot more individualist. And so I feel like I would have had such a different experience growing up and living there versus here. Yeah.
I guess you mentioned like numbers alone is really different. What was your sense of belonging like when you did go back and visit family there?
It's really interesting because for a lot of my life, I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. Here, obviously, the culture is so different, and like you try to assimilate and feel a sense of belonging, but is it really belonging if you have to assimilate and be different to who you actually are? And even when I went back there, I didn't speak the language very well. I didn't fit into the customs because I was so used to the Western way, and so I just didn't really feel a sense of belonging anywhere. Over the last couple of years, I think what has helped me feel more of a sense of belonging is finding that belonging within myself, which means accepting myself as who I am with all the uniqueness and the quirks. And that's helped me feel more of a sense of belonging in other spaces, like being in Vietnam.
Yeah.
For a lot of my childhood, I rejected a lot of my Vietnamese background, heritage, and culture. I used to kick such a fuss when the family went to Vietnam because I wanted to stay here and hang out with my friends. It's only really recently that I'm starting to feel more of a sense of belonging, a sense of connection to home when I go back to Vietnam and I visit family. Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, interesting. I interpret that as bringing the sense of belonging around with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
Which sounds different to the upbringing in less Vietnamese spaces or where you were part of a minority. It's interesting you mentioned numbers because I did grow up with a lot of cousins in Melbourne. And at one point, I think we had 4 families that lived on the same street.
Oh, wow.
So I think it replicated probably like a tiny bit of what it must have been like in living with family in Vietnam. That was only like a 1-year period. So after that, we were spread across Melbourne. But even living really close to each other helped I guess, have more safety and a sense of belonging, because if growing up around my cousins, for example, I didn't go to childcare because I just went to the neighborhood auntie's house with all my cousins. And so I think that was really great for a sense of safety. But I heard that children that don't go to childcare are a little bit delayed with social development, which I think was also me, because I ended up being very shy in non-family spaces for a very long time.
I did the same. I did childcare at a family friend's place. And I was very shy as a child as well. I never thought I'd made that connection before.
So apparently childcare is good, as we now know.
Yeah. And I guess it's not bad to have delayed socialization. But yeah, it just makes a difference.
I'm sure we're all caught up now. So. Yes, but what would you actually define as a sense of belonging then?
For me, it's being able to be the fullest expression of myself, the most authentic expression of myself, and feel accepted. Growing up, I was trying to assimilate into whiteness. And so I wasn't being authentically me. I tried to fit in with the dominant culture, but it wasn't a sense of belonging because I was then abandoning myself and I was abandoning who I truly was or am. It was like trying to fit in, and that's why I never really felt like I had a sense of belonging or felt home or really comfortable anywhere. I was masking a lot. And I also only got diagnosed with ADHD a couple of years ago. And so again, so much masking, so much, oh, I have to be proper. This is the normal way of doing things. This is how other people do things. I can't ramble off about things that I'm interested in or need to move a lot. I have big emotions. And so I dim myself down.
There's so many layers to that, and I feel like that also explains a lot. When we first started co-working and you mentioned how you did feel like you just needed to move and were dancing in that office behind a plant. Not to expose you.
It happens a lot.
But then I'm imagining this is you as an adult and that whole journey of maybe figuring out that you may be neurodivergent and going through the assessment process, that without that knowledge as well, it would have been a lot of masking, trying to look at how do other people who are accepted just do things.
Yeah. But to that point, it's like you have to really understand yourself and know yourself. And a part of that is being able to explore who you are. And I feel in our societies, there's a lot of expectations that's put on us. We're told how to be a good girl, how to be a good student, a good daughter, a good friend, a good this, a good that. And we never actually explore, who the fuck am I? Who's Amanda without me trying to fit into all these expectations? Do you feel that with your childhood as well? Or did you feel like a sense of belonging because you had family around and were more connected to your roots?
It definitely helped me to have a big family network, to know that there is a home base. And even after me and my cousins moved and lived on the other ends of town to each other, we still saw each other every weekend visiting my grandma. But I did move around a lot, so I think that's what comes to mind in terms of my sense of belonging. I have snapshots of what a whole bunch of different suburbs and areas around Melbourne felt like when I was growing up. So I really resonate with your definition, or what I mentioned before, bringing the sense of belonging around with you, because from my experience moving around, if you do just adapt or more like assimilate to each setting, I think it's easy to get further and further away from your actual self. Whereas if you know your actual self really well, you can carry that around. But I think for me, I did stay shy the whole time that I moved.
Up until what age?
I honestly think I stayed shy until the end of high school. Yeah.
It sounds like you already felt a sense of belonging from an early age, especially with family being so close. Was that because in a family dynamic, there were so many different personalities and traits? There was that sense of safety, as you said, to be yourself and to know that you'd be loved and accepted as you are.
How I see it is actually that I have so many cousins of a similar age that rather than there being so much diversity and everyone was accepted, I feel like we just made up our own rules and lived in our own little world. So that was more permission to do whatever you want kind of thing. But we were same values, same kind of upbringing, so very similar in many ways. I keep coming back to the shyness. I think that was what made it hard to belong in different settings, especially starting again in a new school and things like that. So if anything took away from the sense of belonging, it was probably the fear of putting myself out there to try and fit in, whereas it was just so automatic with my family. I think I didn't have to put any effort in because we all get each other.
I see. It's like in your family, in your cousins, you already created a world where you could be you. But then when you tried to integrate into other settings that weren't immediate family, which already had a sense of established safety, that's when it was like, oh, how do I belong here? Or should I just fit in? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that in other settings you don't feel that sense of belonging?
I think that shared experiences does play a lot when you can just understand where someone is coming from, bringing it forward in the future to a workplace setting. Something that I experienced is often seeing, let's say, a younger grad in the workplace who's a little bit more quiet. I can see a bit of myself in them. Maybe they don't want to say the wrong thing, possibly because of growing up with these beliefs about the power distance between you and authority figures.
Oh my God, major. Yeah.
Yeah, so the shared experience, that's a big part. And probably this feeling that there is in the dominant culture, like one way to be accepted or succeed.
So in school or even in the workplaces, was there a point where you did feel like you had a sense of belonging? Or did you always feel like you were trying to fit in? Obviously now you work for yourself, so you create the culture.
Yes, I think finding friends, my book club friends with shared values.
Club.
We started out as a book club and it was called the Asian Power Book Club.
Oh my God, so cute.
And we started off reading female Asian authors.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
We haven't read a book in a while, so I would say it's more of a lifestyle club now.
I love it.
Finding that group of friends, and then in the workplace as well, I did work somewhere that I made so many friends. What we had in common was that we were people of color, like young people of color in this professional workplace. So there was quite a bit of cultural diversity at the bottom levels, obviously, as many Australian companies are, less the further you go up, but just people that I felt like I could be myself with, safely gossip with, to share our stories safely with each other. That helped a lot. More in like my working era that I did find a bit more sense of belonging.
Yeah, and I think what you said about having a workplace with many people from diverse cultures is such a big thing, because I feel like I was in white spaces a lot for a lot of my life. When I lived on campus at uni, like predominantly white, because it was like people from rural areas. And then even in school, even in dietitian school, it was like 98%.
Really?
Yeah, white.
Wow.
Yeah. The statistics reflect that in terms of ethnic backgrounds of dietitians as well. I think it's more like 91%, but yeah, a very small percentage is like people of color. And so I was in a lot of white spaces, and I think it was a reflection of my internal world as well. At that time, I was still like big on rejecting my Vietnamese culture, and I did kind of tend towards more white spaces and have more white friends. But now it's really interesting. Now that I've found that sense of belonging within myself, I've attracted so many more friends who are people of color. And there's this instant sense of belonging almost. I do belly dancing classes, and the only other Asian girl, we instantly became friends, and now really good friends. Shout out to Annie. It's so nice because we can just talk about families, culture, and it's very similar. She's Chinese.
So you don't have to explain so much stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And there's the Asian family values, quite different, I find, from Western family values. And so just connecting on that is an instant connection and an instant sense of belonging.
How cute.
Yeah.
Bestie through belly dancing. You mentioned that there is a difference between assimilating and actually belonging, like being your authentic self in different spaces. What are your thoughts on how can you tell the difference, whether you're assimilating in order to belong or whether you're actually just genuinely belonging somewhere?
Yeah. For me, the definition of belonging itself, you can't fit in to belong. Fitting in is where you're trying to mold yourself into the culture. It's like you're pulling yourself out of your alignment, out of your authentic self to fit into this culture. Whereas belonging is you coming in as your full self and being accepted by the people as you. If I'm reflecting on my own experiences, it's really hard to tell when you're just fitting in when you've never felt a sense of belonging before because you have no point of reference. Do you? Because you had that sense of belonging with your family already.
I think that's a good point though. If you've always been a bit too adaptive, like just fitting in all the different settings, it's hard to know what your baseline normal or belonging is.
Actually, I'm just going to jump in there. Loneliness, I think, is a key indicator. You could be surrounded by people, but in the end, if you feel alone. And I think also if you don't have people that you can share, not just the good experiences, but also the bad experiences with, that is also a key indicator as well. As a society, we love talking about and sharing the good experiences, but then the bad experiences are shunned or we're told to hide away and feel shame about.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. And I was thinking that similar, like when you have someone that you can share, like the vulnerable, what's hard, that helps with the sense of belonging. I think everyone is obviously allowed to be different. Like belonging doesn't have to be that everyone is the same, but that you can come with your struggles as well. And that's okay. And then just keeping it all in.
Yeah. And I think that everyone not being the same is key to belonging there. Because if there was that need for sameness, no one would feel a sense of belonging because there's always going to be something different.
Yeah, to quote The Incredibles, I'm pretty sure the villain actually said this, but you know when it was like, if everyone's special, then no one's special.
I disagree with that.
No, you can disagree. That was the villain.
Usually the villains have good points, but
maybe it comes back to the definition of special. I think I do encourage to be your authentic self. When I try to blend in, it's just so exhausting. It probably answers that other question, that actually what's normal is finishing the day and you feel good. You don't have to feel so drained that if you close your eyes, you're just going to fall asleep. That's probably a sign that you're used too much energy, a bit exhausted.
I'm going to say maybe I should try to fit in because I need help sleeping at night anyway.
Yes, a whole other conversation.
I'm belonging too much. It's not exhausting me enough.
I think we had a discussion about your sleep patterns, and unfortunately it doesn't seem to fit with this 9 to 5 ideal awake time, which is a whole other story.
Anyway, can we go back to the thing with everyone being unique? Oh my gosh, this is such a point. We as humans are social beings and we're meant to live in community. I believe that to my core. And so everyone has these unique strengths and weaknesses. And as a society, when we create excellence within ourselves as a collective, but in our Western world, in our individualist world, we're expected to be excellent at everything. And it's exhausting.
Yeah, that's so true. And it plays into really identifying how the capitalist system impacts us in this Western world, where if we do have more community and people bringing their different strengths together, like it's okay that you can cook and I can't. I'm actually really good at cleaning. Yeah, whereas there is so much pressure in our individual homes to be able to do everything, and I really struggle.
And you know what? I hate cleaning.
So here's the solution. I'm really good at cleaning.
Oh my gosh, there we go.
Meanwhile, I think when I was listing the only 2 recipes I know, it's and fried rice.
It's okay. We can work on that. Share meals or something. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I think when we are able to accept the things that we are great at and then not so great at, one, that's a sense of belonging and acceptance within ourselves. But then two, it brings this need for community together. And so there's a sense of belonging there because it's like we accept that we're not this extremely excellent, perfect person for everything. And we are a piece of the puzzle of the collective, of society, of the community.
Yeah. I think that safety plays a part as well. And I'm thinking back to the workplace example where, like, what's in the way of you being yourself? And I think it's the fear of consequences. Maybe you don't get included on the basic level, included on a team lunch, but then on another level, it's like you don't get included on projects and then you don't have a chance to show your abilities and then you miss out on promotions. That's the whole bigger picture. But when there isn't that sense of safety to have diverse skill sets, then it just feels, oh, this director or senior leader is the model of success that I just need to follow and fit in because I want to be safe and secure as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it may be not who you truly are. Maybe you actually have a lot of talent in something else and you're neglecting that to try to work yourself to the ground, to work on these skills, to be like that person. When in reality, maybe your boss would have really valued your creativity when they're very logical or something like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking back when I was in consulting, one of my natural state of being is I don't love interrupting people, but you have to when you're competing for airtime within a 30-minute meeting and you've got 5 back-to-back meetings. But the transition into counseling, it turns out my natural state of being of like letting people finish their sentence most of the time is a better fit. And I think I have felt a sense of belonging in that environment as well.
Yeah, I totally feel that. Even with my ADHD and the impulsiveness to jump in when I have something to say, I really mask and hold back on myself because I want to hear what the other person has to say as well and also be respectful. But yes, in different cultures it's different, especially in the Western culture here. It's who can show themselves the most.
Yes, yeah, who can express their knowledge the most confidently. I'm actually very curious, when you didn't have a sense of belonging and when you did have a sense of belonging, what did it look like for you in your life?
When I didn't have a sense of belonging, I was a very individualist, hyper-independent person. I felt like I couldn't rely on anyone for anything. I was like, oh, I might as well just do it myself because I do it best. And then I'd be exhausted and so lonely because I wouldn't share the struggles that I was going through. And it really wasn't only until recently where I'm like, okay, remember to share a little bit more. It's okay. You're safe to be vulnerable and ask for help and ask for opinions. So back then it was very lonely. I left and moved overseas a couple of times because I was like, what's tying me here?
Wow.
In that way, it self-perpetuates this idea that I don't need anyone because I'd leave all my friends for ages and then we both grow so differently that when I came back, a lot of my friends and I were like mismatch. And so a lot of friends started dropping off and I'd find a different set of friends. And that was the pattern every time I left for extended periods of time. But now, having found that sense of belonging within myself, I feel so much more grounded in Melbourne, which I haven't felt ever before. And I have really solid friendships and I'm like, I want to keep these friendships and keep developing them and grow together and not just grow myself. And it's that quote that's, if you want to go fast, go yourself. If you want to go far, go together. Have you heard of that before?
I haven't, but I love it.
Yeah, I think it's an African proverb. One of the first places I felt a real sense of belonging was in the pro-Palestine community because we're a whole bunch of neurodivergents from different ethnic backgrounds. A lot of us have tried to assimilate into the dominant culture and it always rejected us no matter how hard we tried. And especially with the genocide going on in Palestine, there's sure some good times that we really try to celebrate, but there's a lot of really difficult times as well. And to be able to experience that together, witness each other in that and hold space and support each other in that, that has been a real big eye opener and experience in a sense of belonging and community for me.
That is beautiful to hear, and probably a reminder of how important it is, in that when we are isolated or polarized, just not accepting difference and not listening to each other, then it does lead to worse and worse consequences. And so the need to just have space for each other in community.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's what you have found in that shared mission and values alignment.
What about you? What do you think the consequence of feeling a sense of belonging versus not?
When I do have a sense of belonging, like now is a lot more stable as I have a really trusted group of people and network around me. I don't feel so exhausted at the end of the day. Decision making is easier because I know what my values are. It's still hard sometimes.
I think that's such an important one, knowing your values. Yeah.
But when I didn't have the sense of belonging, I think the word isolation really does just pop into mind, and it felt so heavy and hard to move past. I think just having someone to share the struggles with helps so much. There's this memory that pops up of when I worked as a tutor during uni. It's a really hard job.
What did you tutor?
I tutored children, private tutoring for children, like high school and primary school, just English, maths, a whole range. But it turns out that's where I learned that parents are like one of the most difficult demographics to work with. And it felt really lonely then because I didn't really have colleagues. As a private tutor, I was just working for myself.
Even as a business owner.
Yeah, just not really having someone to be like, wait, is this normal? Or how do you deal with this? Feeling like I was alone on that journey and then not having anyone to lighten the load with was really hard. I actually remember what happened is that I was feeling all the pressure of these parents and I just wanted to quit everything. And I remember lying on the floor of my bedroom. The tears were just like rolling off my face, and that was the exact moment my mum walked in. Seeing me on the floor like in a pool of tears, that was a sense of belonging. I actually remember, it's all coming back now. She sat on the floor with me and was like, what is happening? And what do you need? And I was like, I need to not work with these parents. And she's like, hey, all right, talk to this parent first and then that parent second, and then that's it. And that, I think even just one person, it helped a lot. And it went up from there.
Yeah. I love the image of that story. That's great that we can laugh at it now.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure it wasn't so funny at the time.
Oh, it reminded me though that lying on the floor is what I need to do when things are hard.
Yeah. What you say about lightening the load when you share it with someone is so true. And it's not necessarily that they need to give you solutions. It's just when we have a problem and we're trying to figure it out ourselves, we can get stuck in loops and the energy gets stuck within us. But then as soon as we voice it, and sometimes, I'm sure many people have experienced this before, but as soon as you ask a question, you're like, I know the answer to that.
Yes. There's so much magic in just externalizing rather than keeping it in.
I feel like a part of what that is lifting the shame, right? Because shame can't survive when it's shared. Shame only exists when we internalize it and suppress it and believe that there's something wrong with us for having this problem or for not being able to find a solution. And then as soon as we share it, it's, I don't think that there's something wrong with me anymore because I just shared it and there's this other person. Particularly, it's helpful, maybe even essential for the other person to be able to hold that space and really hear you and validate the trouble that you're experiencing. Because if they're like, why do you have a problem with that? Then you'll probably be like, there is something wrong with me.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think that's exactly what happened in that example with the tutoring and the tears. And I think seeing my mum's reaction not be, you just need to be better, I thought would happen. So just the absence of me being the problem was like, oh,
interesting. Reflecting on my childhood, maybe that's why I didn't feel a sense of belonging.
I would still say I'm with you though, and that was one glimmer. One glimmer with my mum in lots of difficult high expectations. But you're right. The impact of feeling like constantly I'm the problem is a burden.
Yeah.
So what would you then suggest on how do you actually get more of a sense of belonging? What can you do?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. And I feel like for each person it's so unique, right? Because the reason for that is unique for each person. For me, going to therapy and doing a lot of inner child work, I did spiritual work on top of that. And then I spent 6 months by myself in Bali where I really had to find that sense of belonging within myself. And then when I came back into society, I feel like that was really the tipping point where I was like, oh, I'll bring my belonging to any space that feels right.
So it started with you and really the deep inner you.
Yeah.
I would say a similar thing. I got the sense of belonging rolling, starting with just one person. And I think you do need a really good, hard look at yourself. And this will sound so random, but something I remember is just finding things from when I was younger and then being like, oh my God, younger V was so funny. And I'm the same still. And that's okay.
So
What I found was this kind of banner that said Happy Mother's Day, and then I stuck the word birth over mothers, so it said Happy Birthday. So clearly I was upcycling a banner, and that was the exact moment I was doing the exact same thing but in reverse, where I had this like probably another banner that said Happy Birthday and I stuck the word mothers on top. So I was like, oh my God. This is me as a 21-year-old, and I just found something from my childhood that I don't even remember doing.
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
So I was like, oh, she's crafty. She's the same. I haven't changed. Even that small thing made me feel like, yeah, it is okay. And then you expand it by one, and then two people, and then just like having the courage to connect with other people. Otherwise, my shy introvertedness, I probably would have been somewhat okay, but not good in the long run to just be by myself forever.
I like what you said about looking at your past self, your younger self, and just accepting her and seeing her or him or they as the lights that they are. Yeah, that is such a good one.
Thank you. She is seen.
I love that. I think that brings our topic for today to a good conclusion. And I wonder, for the people listening to this, what was your experience of feeling a sense of belonging as a second-gen Asian Australian, or whatever identity that you do have? We'd love to hear your own experiences.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, and extend that sense to everyone. Thank you for sipping along. The other side of loneliness is belonging, and sometimes it really only takes one other person to get a sense of community going. Is there someone that comes to mind that you want to connect and share things with, whether it's tea, celebrations, or something a little bit more difficult? Maybe you can share this episode with them as a starting point. Reminder, we've been very lucky to collaborate with O2HT, suppliers of this delicious jasmine tea today, who have offered a very generous 20% discount to Spilling the Jasmine Tea listeners. Just use the code JASMINE20 at the checkout and you'll be able to buy and try so many different flavors for your friends, your family, or yourself just in time for silly season. And we would really love if you leave a review to share a little bit of feedback on how you found this podcast. What could we continue talking about? What do you want to hear about? We really want to know. And see you in the next episode to spill even more jasmine tea.